name is Ray, or some of you might know me as Tiki with Ray, and today I'm with my good buddy Steven. We're in his home tiki bar, the Rocking Jellyfish Lounge. And today we're going to talk about something that we've talked about before.
A lot,
but today we're really going to get into like the meat and bones of what the tiki template is. This is something that we've talked about many times, where I really honestly feel that we're potentially in the fourth wave of tiki, where what that means to me is now you're starting to see bars that they're not necessarily tiki bars, but they're using the tiki template. We've talked about Mothership, how that is like a tiki bar, but it's not a tiki bar. This idea that it's like, but they're using these building blocks that were created with tiki bars. And you created like a little presentation.
Yeah, so
a 10-step points of what those building blocks could be.
So I gave a presentation at the Joko cruise, named after Jonathan Colton, who's a songwriter with a comedic bent.
Yeah.
And he has a cruise every year, and it's basically a nerd cruise. So they have gaming, music. They Might Be Giants was the headliner last year. Jonathan Colton did an outdoor show in Loreto, Mexico this year. All sorts of fun things. So a lot of the people are into role-playing, Dungeons and Dragons, costumes. They even have a goth night, a goth dance night. And so I gave my presentation to a crowd who isn't as much into tiki, but is very much into immersive environments. Renaissance fairs, role-playing of all sorts, role-playing games, pirates. There's a whole...
Yeah.
I mean, one of the magical nights is sea shanty night, where you all sing along to actual sea shanties. So go figure. And I wanted to show them that if they wanted to build an environment, how would they do it? Mm-hmm. But what I did was I took our tiki template and explained to them that you don't have to be a tiki bar, but that there are what I distilled to 10 points of what the template is. And you and I have talked a lot about how other immersive bars either borrow from, influenced by the tiki template. And a number of people in the last 2 or 3 years have said, you keep talking about this goddamn tiki template, what is it? And so I said, all right, here it is. Yeah. There are 10 things you need to know and one underlying principle of what the tiki template is. The underlying principle, without further introduction, if it is a creative or you are creating a controlled, immersive environment and escape.
100%.
Simple as that.
100%.
That's it. That's the nutshell. So if you're building one, or what you and I in particular, and other of your videos, when we're not just talking about tiki, or when the term tiki is overused, it refers to this escapist environment. But it's important to know that it's controlled. It's not just immersive, it's not just an escape, but it's controlled in the sense that if it's by nature artificial, that we control everything from sunset to the weather. So that's kind of what we're doing here. And my first 2 points, so my 10 points, my number one is, the first 2 I stole directly from Bamboo Ben. So I attribute to him. And although I put a little spin on some of these. Number 1, think in terms of layer and texture. Mm-hmm. So you think about dimensionality, about how things overlap the other, how there's what the Victorians refer to as a fussy eclecticism, which I love that term. Not 100% sure I know what it means, but it sounds good. But the idea that there is this, layers on walls, or I use my home bar where I have different areas of texture, of tapa cloth, of, I'm just looking around the bar itself, of this is Bosco trim, of bamboo trim. We've got different wallpapers. We've got, the three-dimensionality of the artwork. Or the masks.
Or is this like come down to like Bamboo Ben's no white walls kind of thing?
Well, that's number 2, is no white walls. There's that that is number two. That it one flows into the other.
Yeah.
And what I like to do for those who are building bars or thinking about building an immersive environment, not just a bar, are things like accent walls, fabric on walls, wallpaper. If you're one of the things in my presentation I like to talk about is people who are renters. And one thing we are going to do is we'll give a tour of Ray's Tiki bedroom and talk about how, as a renter, you can create your own immersive environment.
I'll show you all my tips and tricks.
Your tips, trips, and tricks. I don't
show
want your ticks, but I do want your trips.
I swear there is no
your tricks.
There's no there's no bed bugs in my Tiki bedroom.
Number 3, I call "Hello Darkness, My Old Friend." There is something about a controlled environment,
You need to be a fan of Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah. Okay. You don't have to be, but I just thought it sounded good.
It is. That's something I would do.
But yeah, the "Hello Darkness, My Old Friend" is it. There's the thing about darkness is it. Immersive, envelops you.
Yeah.
For most people, you can either create horror with it, or you can create comfort, like it envelops you.
Yeah.
But the important practical thing, the reason it's there is, as I put it in my own notes, it allows you to control. It allows you to use other things we'll talk about later to focus on what you want to focus on, on what's important.
That's something that I've always said about, like, well, what makes a tiki bar as opposed to like a beach bar? And it's the darkness.
Yeah.
You know, tiki bars are dark. You know, that's how it's supposed to be. And just like you said, but because of that, then you can control the lights and the lighting to focus on the things that you want people to see.
And in my presentation, I talk about, for those who are building these environments, things like wall covering. Like I took Dead Man's Isle that you and I were just at again recently, and how when we were there before, and the windows were open, and then how they had their custom-made window film with the octopus and sea creatures cracking whatever, the Maikai, how they incorporate the outside and the inside and the darkness. So we have a number of examples of bars about that. But rolling into darkness is number 4, for those of you keeping score at home, and there's probably just one of you, is my lighting paradox, I call it. And you and I have talked about this before, but my philosophy has always been more lights the better, but at the same time, the dimmer the better. Yeah. So we talk about the darkness as a means of control, and the lighting paradox, though, is the more lights just seem to be better. And from a commercial bar, False Idol, I think in San Diego, is the example I like to use. You know, all of these lights are some lit, some not, all just there. But it's a super dark bar at the same time. Number 5, show off your collection. And again, this isn't just for tiki people, but you know, what you've collected and what you want to display really makes a big difference. So even if you're not tiki, you know, the D&D people, we even talked, and I had a Q&A afterwards, and somebody came up to me and says, I have a library and I want to make it more of a thematic library, but what do I do? And I say, well, you focus the lighting on the reading areas, and then you focus the lighting on like your prime collection of books, but you let everything else go dark. But you're at the same time, you decide to use the other principles of darkness and the lights to then show off what you want on your collection, whether and it's artwork, and usually in the tiki community, that of course means mug. But you know, it can. Yeah,
I mean, if you like, so say if you had this, so if you like, you're into books and something like that. I mean, obviously, if you want to create an immersive environment, you want it to be the most stereotypical library, the shelves, and you know, maybe even have the thing where you have the ladder that you can like go and
or whatever or you can make it steampunk. You can make it more of a Jules Verne library. You can make it something more Parisian or Art Nouveau or there's a lot of ways to go with that.
Like just thinking about it, like not talking about, like, remember when we were at Meow Wolf, and there was that one room where it was that.
There you go.
It was a couch, but it's literally surrounded by books.
Yeah,
like just stacks and stacks of them. They're kind of like at a curve around. And that's a good idea, or an idea of like, okay, how do I take the things that I love or my obsession, and show that off?
Yeah.
So there's a very unique way of how they did that. Right?
Yep. The other example I'll use, in addition to mugs, which for the Tiki community is kind of very familiar, is the World's Fair glasses that we show in the back. You just think about what you collect, and whether it's artwork too. For me, it's artwork, but I also have the World's Fair glasses. I also have the mugs. Whatever it is, that's a collection of you. You know, if you're a D&D, a gamer, you're going to have those figurines, or your other role-playing devices, or even your dice, if you're into that and have some rare collectible dice. Number 6 is something we did a whole video on, but using your senses. So senses beyond sight and how they flow into this.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah, and you remember that. That was a number of years ago, but
it's one of the first ones we did together.
Yeah. So then we're going back 6-7 years, and yet it still stays with me as there. And there are a lot of tips and tricks I can give off of that, but a few I gave in for those who are building a bar was. I use scented Max Welts, wax melts, easy for me to say, and dispensers to have my own unique scent in the bar.
Yep. With sight, it goes without saying with the but then like sounds, like the sound of a waterfall, or there's different sound effects you can play while you're in the bar. Like there's sound effects where it's like you can make it sound like you're in a jungle.
Yeah. I have a jungle sound mix, which I don't always do in a tiny speaker behind us. Yeah. I have a sort of a water-based mix, like a ship at sea, with all the noise in one corner if I want. And then of course I have music. And the tip I use for music is, unless you're having a dance party, you get music of whatever genre, you want it just loud enough that people are barely conscious of it, but have to almost raise their voices in conversation, but not so loud that they can't hear the conversation.
Yeah, you don't want the music to dominate.
But you want it just loud enough that if they want to tap their toes to it, they can. It's kind of a fine balance. It's a trick to get there, but if you do there, and of course taste, something we're not going to talk about today, but
taste, you have your cocktails,
a bajillion examples.
And what about your touch? What's the touch?
Touch is not necessarily literal. It's an extension of sight, and it's an extension of rule number 1, the layers and texture. That you don't want people to go fondle all your mugs, art, and masks, in my case. But at the same time, you want that interdimensionality, that layers and textures, that when you see it, you can feel it. You can almost feel the dimensions of it. So for me, feeling is really an extension of sight, but it's kind of that, and also an extension of rule number 1, layers and textures and dimensions. So I'm kind of cheating there, because there's not a lot of things that people necessarily touch other than glassware or the bars. But I kind of put it as an extension of sight. The number 7 is physical layout, flow, and segmentation. So that one sounds technical, and it kind of is. But we had done a video, which in real life we just filmed, on Casa Bonita. And one of the things I commented on was how, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, they took a department store in Denver and converted it into a 3 or 4 level wonderland of a loosely Mexican Western themed restaurant. What's interesting about it is the way the pathways flow, the way the seating flows, that you're not exactly sure what level you're on, that you turn a corner and that you discover things. In a home bar, our friends Mark and Kim Cook, when they moved from a smaller place of their Headhunters Hideaway to a large garage build out, they did an exceptional job of segmenting. They have a booth, a Tiki booth,
Yep.
but they have their bar, they have amazing decor there, but they also have 3 or 4 distinct seating areas, and it has its own flow, but
Yep.
it also has its own area that it feels like you can float from one group of people talking to another when they have big parties. And so there's a kind of a logic and a flow to it. So it's a little harder to describe, but you're thinking about the way a bar flows, the way that you may do segments. And another example of segments isn't just the way that you do seating or arrange the floor of the bar. It's also, I use my art walls as an example of how I took reclaimed wood and my mass from Papua New Guinea in the Pacific Northwest are in a section.
Yeah.
Tapa cloth for certain masks. We use remnants of an expensive wallpaper that is gold colored for the shag. And then we just stapled some bamboo matting on other walls and put the lowbrow art there. And we put bamboo poles to separate them, but each one is a segment. And hopefully it kind of tells, if not tells a story, has a certain unique quality to it.
Yeah.
So you need to think about segments and flow. And one of the things that I find often makes home bars superior to commercial bars, and especially in the Tiki community, is that
The drinks are free.
the drinks are free and you don't have to worry about maximizing seating.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
commercial places sometimes have restrictions because they got to get as many people in, butts in the seats as possible. Whereas in my bar, I suppose I could maximize it and comfortably sit maybe 20 people, but I don't want to. My bar comfortably sits 6, 10, seats 12. I can 16 people here in a pinch, including standing. Any more than that's too much.
Yeah.
But I don't have to worry about, do I have to cram 16? I just have small parties, and I like it that way.
I think a perfect example of what you're talking about is our friends Don and Heather Waters. Their new place, the new Waters House at Tiki. So they have this. They live in this really, really huge house where they have this floor that almost feels like it would have been some kind of like a dance hall kind of thing. It's just this large open room, or at least that's what it was. I mean, it's big, And then there was like a bar that was already made, right? And then what they did is they literally built walls to create the separation. Mm-hmm. And it makes such a difference, that to have this segmentation,
Yeah, and it allows them to have their walrus bar, their pirate area, their
even having
animal area. It allows them to have different, almost different bars in one.
Yeah, they have like a giant tiki hut that's in like one corner, and then I think it's a good idea to cut up your tiki bar in a way, segment it up, as opposed to just having this big empty room.
Number 8 is my theory of constraints, and we've talked about this on a couple of videos that I've done with Ray.
Yeah.
Is, think of your physical obstacles as opportunities for planning your bar, to give it some character, to unique. In my case, I in my presentations, I show before and after of my bar, and this is the constraint. This bar here, where we're seating at, was already here when this was an open area before we did the build out, and it's not something I wanted to move. So I had to plan the floor space around it for better and for worse into these two segments. And so people have different obstacles or they have different constraints. So again, going back to Casa Bonita, they made this beautiful pathway that I can't even imagine, although I've seen pictures of how it could have been just a box department store, right?
Yeah.
They took the constraints of the space and did the best they could with it to creatively do the layout and flow. Number 9 is the use of technology. I'm no expert on that, and there are a lot of people, especially in the Tiki community, who are use of it. But especially when it comes to lighting, thankfully, we have LED.
Oh my God, yeah.
Where you could do cheapy stuff for 10 or 20 bucks. You can do mid-level for, $100, or you can do Hue or LIFX are the two big systems, and you can spend a few $100s and wire up a room, and it's so much easier than it was even 10, but especially more than 20 years ago.
Oh my God! Yeah. Well, could you imagine the electric bills if we were actually using like old school light bulbs?
Oh yeah. Or a lot of people have creative use again, especially in the Tiki community, of TV screens.
Yeah.
Stray Pirate in Vegas and Wilfred's Lounge in Napa, in California, both use creatively either portholes or big screens.
Yeah, behind the bar at Stray Pirate it's like as if you're in a ship and you're looking out at the water.
Number 10 is, and here I give a lot of credit both to you and to Tiki Tom Tom, and for those of you who don't already have it or aren't familiar with it, his book of home bars, although page 120 is the best.
Yeah.
I'll let you guess what home bar is on page 120. But Tiki Tom Tom did a whole bunch of pictures and stories of visits to his bars. You've been to even more home bars. How many home bars have you been to?
I think 145.
Yeah. So
home Tiki bars.
And I would say both Tiki Tom Tom's book does a great job, and your videos do a great job of emphasizing, especially for the best bars and especially for the best home bars, having a theme and telling a story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Having your point of view, especially if it's, or even if it's not a purist Tiki in the sense of the word. But the best bars all have a point of view to them that make them unique, and that's why home bars are so great. Yeah. Even if they're not expensive artwork or technologically sophisticated or whatever, if somebody puts themselves into it, the result's going to be a great evening or day when you're at their place.
Yeah.
My
favorite home Tiki bars are the ones where the owner's personality comes out.
Yeah. That's exactly.
And I love to see, because then you get to see what their other passions are there, And I love to see the combination of that.
Yeah.
I've always said this before. It's like, I meet a lot of friends through Tiki, and and I could talk about Tiki all day with anybody. But what I like is when you get to the next point, or like you realize like, oh, we have this in common too. Well, let's talk about that, or like, oh, something else. And I like that, that it's like we're not just into like one thing,
Yeah, and that's why we don't want to limit.
I mean, that's the reason why there's the Tiki Golf Club, It's like there's a whole bunch of us. We're into Tiki, but we're also into like the darker side of stuff too. So we have or the Tiki Golf Club for that matter. We're all Tiki people, but we all like playing this disc golf. It's about the other things that you have in common.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so my concluding thoughts are, when you're building your bar, you're either building your own refuge.
Yeah.
We have friends who are kind of like hermits. We see them in the Pacific Northwest summer once or twice, but they have their own places and they like to just hang with themselves or their other best friends. We have other places that build the community through having their place and having people over, whether it's throwing big parties or in the case of Heidi and myself, we have small gatherings, 8, 10 people, and we make a night or an afternoon of it. But it also, it's self-reinforcing to what you said. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And it's kind of got that element to it that certainly, and there's something for those of you who aren't from here called the Seattle Freeze, where people in Seattle are generally very friendly, but it's harder to make deeper friendships.
Yeah.
And for those of us in this area who have, either put themselves out and come out to Devil's Reef or wherever we're all gathering on a given night, or who then have their own place and invite others or get invited to our places, we build this sense of community. And so that's never been an issue for me in my years here, because we build these camaraderies and friendships. There's another thing that's great about hanging out with this guy is, Ray, you've got a 6 degrees of separation, and that because the community is the Tiki
less.
community isn't
Probably
large,
less than that now.
but it's large enough that you know somebody in this community.
Yeah.
Ray will know that person, he'll know that person, and you'll have this whole sense of door opening. So you go to another city, you go to another event, you go to a commercial bar, you'll get invited to home bars. It's kind of a really cool thing. And it deviates a little from the Tiki template, which is more technically what are the elements of a theme bar or how to put one together, but it's right out there. And so, the best spaces are a reflection of you. That's really it. And what I tell people who build immersive spaces, where you find them is, feel free to sweat the details, but then don't worry about whether people notice it. So when I built my home bar, I used to sweat like, will people notice that the Mesoamerican bars have this certain area and are a certain thematic, and that this is thematic more than this, and that this flows with this, and that this color palette is here. And even the most astute Tiki observers, most didn't notice those things. But the funny thing is when the owner of a commercial or home will take bars or Tiki bar or immersive space, puts that detail into there, the patrons will subliminally draw upon it. They'll know upon it. They'll reflect it. They'll come back to it. Casa Bonita, I came back to it, and we did a taping a few weeks later, and I'm going, oh, this reminds me of Knott's Berry Farm or Epcot. This reminds me of that. Oh, that's very comforting. I don't know why. And so it's okay, because those bars or spaces, I mean, we use bars, but the immersive space will think about those details. And Disney, of course, a master of this as well at the Disney parks. And then you let the patrons, if they don't intellectually understand all the details, they'll come away with it. And again, I come back to something you and I have already discussed, but I feel this just to my bones, and my concluding remarks about the best immersive spaces are a reflection of the creator.
Want to support the Tiki with Ray show and look cool doing it at the same time? Then head over to tikiwithray.com and buy yourself a Tiki with Ray shirt. They're only $20. Tony Canapa did the design, and they're screen printed in America.